Yeah, dude, it was amazing. It was really
So
good.
what was better, the sex or the Dune?
Uh, actually, it was kind of, if it wasn't an IMAX, to be honest, too, we were sitting right underneath the speaker in row L. Dude, that thing had me all kinds of I felt it in my soul, dude, just gyrating. So probably Dune the movie because it was an IMAX. Otherwise, I don't know. Maybe the Bucket.
Bucket was kind of nice, dude. I'm very excited. We're gonna try to go see it this weekend.
Alrighty, welcome back to Living a Stream podcast with myself and retired amateur pro skateboarder Eric Harrison.
I'm gonna hang up. I'm leaving the call.
Today we are talking about past lives. Eric, come back. Okay. Before you rebuttal that, we're talking about past lives streaming on Paramount Plus / you have to have the bonus SHOWTIME. Do you have a SHOWTIME account?
Of course I have a SHOWTIME account.
Oh, really? And Paramount Plus?
Wait a minute. Hold on. That's actually a great question.
Yeah, how'd you watch this?
Oh, dude, I watched this on Hulu.
It's on Hulu too?
It is on Hulu.
What? Okay, so it's on Hulu, it's on Paramount Plus / SHOWTIME, which is wild to me.
Also on Amazon.
And on Amazon? For free?
It is.
Oh, it's literally everywhere. Okay, cool. That's amazing.
Everywhere.
Well, sweet. But yeah, before we get into all of that, Eric, I need to know, because I got a text message from you that you house some sort of group viewing watch party of the video, and you had my mug on a giant screen and that mustache.
Absolutely. It was so my buddy Isaiah came in town with his girlfriend. Shout out Isaiah. Moved away a few years back, so we were having some dinner last night. And with some friends, and we went back to Richard's house and we started talking about the podcast. They're like, wait, we want to see it. I said, lucky for you, we do video now. And they said, no way. So we pulled up Spotify and Richard's TV, watched a few minutes of the episode, and I hate listening to my own voice.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, that's enough. Like, we're like, no, Dumb Money was a great movie. Let's do Dumb Money. And I was like, there's no video. They're like, we don't care. So they played it. Dude, this is ridiculous. I need to not drink Diet Cokes when we do episodes. But anyways, I listened to a few minutes of Dumb Money just watching this blank screen. It was excruciating for me to hear my own voice and just stare at people listen to us.
And have nothing on the screen moving.
But they all liked it.
Oh,
they're really excited. So
that's sweet.
That was fun.
Hanging out with friends and getting to watch that. I have not watched it. I mean, other than editing it, but I have not watched it.
Take a peek. But you know what? We're just going to move on from me right away.
Oh, really?
Because the people need to know what you've been up to, even though we know.
Specifically.
Tell us about Dune.
Dude, okay. Here's the thing. One, before we get into Dune, I want to say the reason why I was extra stoked for Dune is because we at Three Milks Media here are launching a new weekly newsletter that I was stoked about. So going to Dune as the first movie that we're gonna do, because this weekly newsletter is all about
what's it called?
Going to the theaters. Oh, Sweet and Condensed. That's probably a good thing to talk about. It's called Sweet and Condensed, and it is a weekly newsletter that lets you know at a glance if the latest box office releases are worth your time and money and what to expect if you go. And Dune 2, we felt like, yes, like this is what we need to launch this with. And there's also some other goodies in there, some colder hot takes you get to decide, and some movies that are on the come up that, yeah, maybe you'll find interesting. Anyways, Dune, dude.
I'm so excited.
Dude, it's the reason I think movie theaters are still alive, still a thing, why they're created, why big screens exist, why IMAX exists. Like, I know everyone on the internet, and I feel like a cliche just going around saying, watch it on the biggest screen possible. But if Josh Brolin put that on his caption, the dude is a poet. He writes some really good captions on Instagram. So if you're not following him, check him out. But he even said, hey, go big. He goes, I don't talk about my movies very much about this, but go big, IMAX big, go watch it. Lines around the corner. And I would have to agree, dude. And I don't know.
Did you save the cinemas?
Cinemas, dude.
Do you think it's saved? Here's the thing. Everybody said Tom Cruise and Top Gun did it, right? A few years back?
Yes.
Timothy just did the same thing.
Oh,
and
100%.
Here's the crazy part. The stars are aligning. their first and last name, the initials. What is it? TNC.
Stop, dude.
TNC. Back-to-back cinema-saving films. Not back-to-back in any way, shape, or form. And they're not related at all. But I'm just saying, man, everybody said Tom Cruise did it. And now here comes Timothy, 2024, bringing it back. TCs, maybe.
That is some conspiracy level that I'm about. That I want to hear, dude. Because
was it better than the first?
It is definitely. I was talking to actually New Mexico Drew earlier about this. It is definitely bigger, better, more intense. I think the thing that made me really like, I'm like personally like trying to figure out which one's better or in terms of a personal experience, just because I knew nothing about Dune. Like before I watched Dune 1, I didn't read the book. I didn't know much about the story. I didn't know about the lore or anything. So I just felt like that was magical in that sense, that everything was just incredibly amazing and new. Like it just brought me into this new space, new world. So like, I don't want to say Dune 1 is like better, but the magic of feeling of like, I had no idea what any of this was. And now I'm obsessed with it was there for part 1. Part 2, I was just stoked because literally like you were saying, the internet was blowing up about how amazing this is. So I don't know, but I mean, they're on par, dude. It opens up, boom, you're in it, dude. You're in it. And I do recommend getting a seat. I don't know if all theaters are laid out the same, but underneath a speaker. That was an accident. And let me tell you, my whole soul was gyrating.
I heard Austin Butler is like he's doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, but he steals the show. Or do you hate him from Elvis? Like, do you have a preconceived disdain for him? Because I know
why would I hate him because of Elvis?
I don't know. I just know some people really have strong feelings about him on film Twitter, but a lot of people were saying like, "Hey, this is." They were basically saying that Zendaya, Florence, Timothy, and Austin are like, "Hey, movies are in good hands with this set of actors moving forward." And I was like really excited because does he play a good villain?
Dude, I don't want to ruin anything.
Dude, spoiler for me. Hey, hold on one second. Sorry, hold your thought. Boom, shakalaka, we are back and live. I kind of want you to spoil it for me, and then we just don't publish it. I'm just kidding. Don't spoil it.
We'll talk offline. But let me just say this, though. If there was any doubts about any of these people and their ability to act and have power and presence, and if there was any question of are there Hollywood stars, that this will change your mind. This like solidifies that these people have range. And I know I've been a fan of Timmy C since the beginning, and so yeah, I just think that this makes it official, in my opinion.
Let's go. Okay,
it's amazing, dude. It is really great.
Cool.
It is extraordinary performances, and the frames, man. Like there's just the visuals are just wildly like top tier, man. Speaking of that, though, you just watched the first one for the first time recently?
Yeah, about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Because what were your thoughts? Because I know that there was some doubts about some Timothy Chalamet being casted as Paul Atreides and what that would look like because of who he becomes in the book. That being said, what were you? Because I know you've only seen part 1. What were your thoughts?
I just went in judging him immediately. I didn't have any really great expectations, and this might be cliche, but in the plane in the first one, when he says "remove her gag" and the voice, oh dude, I was like, all right, hell yeah, we're in it. Like this is my guy. Like, and that might be cliche, that might be other people's moments too, but that was the moment I was like, he can pull this off. I didn't know what to expect though. So like saying he can pull this off, I didn't know what this was. So Star Wars fans had a lot of expectations with the initial trilogy, and then the early 2000s movies, and then the recent movies, and everybody's disappointed. They had expectations. I didn't have that with Dune, and because I didn't read the book, but I heard a lot of hype, and I was excited about the second one, so I jumped into that first one. And when he delivered that line and that scene was fantastic. So anyways, everybody was fantastic in the first movie, but that was the moment for me when it switched, and obviously the final scene. So I'm excited, and I was a doubter for sure. Again, with no real expectations or reason for being a doubter, but I was a doubter. I was a hater. No longer.
That's okay. That's okay. It happens. And also, dude, I'm excited for you to watch it, and I highly recommend You got to get the Dune bucket, dude. It makes the popcorn
How deep does it
taste
go?
better.
Show me. Test it out for me.
Excuse me?
Test it out.
It goes pretty far.
Elbow deep. Elbow deep. Oh!
I just got popcorn all over my keyboard, dude. I was living, let's just say, dude, I was living my best life with this because
I could just picture you like
you what?
I could just picture you just elbow deep, just like enthralled with one of the scenes, just forgetting your arm was stuck
in there. Dude, that would have been terrifying. I almost thought I was gonna have to cut my arm off just now. Just 127 hours it. But dude, was gonna say, yeah, they give you a free bucket. So I had two buckets because I instantly dumped it in there and went and got a refill. And I ate about 18 kernels of it. So there's so much popcorn here.
Let's go.
It was for the buck. It's for the culture and the tax write-off, dude. I needed to buy it.
For the cause. For the cause.
Anyways, how else, dude? How else is life?
Everything else been good, man. Been good. We are setting up an above ground pool in the back. I think I mentioned this last time. So this week, just like next few weekends, we'll be like slowly prepping the ground and ensuring everything's ready to go because the pool got delivered the other day. So we're excited, man, for summertime. It's a little early, but if we waited, prices would skyrocket. So anyways, also, here's the thing, Josh. I am a DIY guy. Like I'll fix stuff in the house, outside the house. Like I'll try to do as much as possible on my own, plumbing, electric. I hate insects with a passion. So like I try to get yard work done before it gets too warm, dude. Because I was moving some brick today and some what am I saying? Dude, what is happening?
Cinder
right
blocks?
Now? Anyway, yeah, like some blocks and just some stuff in the back, and it's all good. It's cold. There's nothing under it, dude. If I were to wait a month or two, there's critters under there, and I'm not doing it. And I don't want to do it. Pest control, I'll spray. It doesn't matter to me, dude. So anyways, just trying to get it done early so I don't have to deal with that. That's not me.
Do you get cockroaches?
No, cockroaches. We don't cockroaches. Last year we had quite a few black widows in the backyard.
Oh, no, thank you.
No, sorry, Bob, dude. You guys got cockroaches in Denver pretty bad?
No, I was gonna say one of the good things about here, there's not that many. I feel like there wasn't that many cockroaches or bugs. I mean, there's definitely bugs, like just not in the house, you know.
Just not
except
as bad.
Our condo, dude. We moved in and they didn't say anything. This was like, what is that, a year and a half ago? Anyways, one of the places I lived at, they didn't say anything. And then come September, dude, there was these like hundreds of these little bugs that had like reddish, orangish bodies and they flew and they're just everywhere, dude. And I was like, what are these things? I've never seen this before. They don't bite. They're not, I mean, they're bugs and I don't want them anywhere. But there's worse bugs out there to have inside your home.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There was just, like I said, hundreds outside, and they would occasionally get inside. And then, like, 3 months later, we're like, yeah, what's up with the bugs? They're like, oh, yeah, they're every year and blah, 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 and this is normal. I'm like, why didn't you tell us this before we moved in? Give us a heads up. But anyways, we survived it. That being said, though, no, there's...
Pavers. That's the word. Apparently I used all my verbal capital with the newsletter.
Okay.
I forgot the word paver.
Pavers? What? I don't think I have that one in my arsenal.
Just pavers. They're little. It's just a stone like pathway. So what's happening right now? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, pavers. Like you're talking about when you were moving bricks
in the backyard. Stuff. Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah. This is a mess, dude.
See, this is how much I'm not a DIY person because I don't know what that. I've never heard of that. I don't work on homes, dude.
Oh,
just live in some of them.
Live in
other people's homes. But yeah, well, dude, that's sick. Are you a pool person or is this like a kid family thing?
I enjoy a good pool, but the kids love it. Kelly loves it. Like they are all fish. Like they could just spend every waking moment in the pool. Like I love swimming. And at the lake, it's a good time. I feel like I grew up swimming a lot, and we lived right down the street from Sierra Vista Pool. My parents had an above ground pool. I don't know if that sounds bad of me, but like, so I feel like I'm swimmed out, But I love it. It's fun, and the kids are just so excited.
Yeah,
and Kelly is too.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it'll be fun.
So good with the sun.
Are you a swimmer? You like swimming?
No,
in the pool?
Absolutely not.
What do you mean no? Can you swim?
Yeah, I can swim.
You're grinning a little bit. Something's up.
I can swim. Here, I don't know. You just get wet, and I just don't know about hanging out in a pool and water, especially like I probably have talked about this. Oceans, lakes, any bodies of water that were alligators, sharks, jellyfish, critters. There's creatures in there, dude. Dead bodies.
Not in
there's
a lake.
So many things.
alligators in a lake in like Colorado? Dude.
Yes.
What are we talking about here?
Have you seen Lake Placid? This state, I know Lake Placid's in New York, but I'm just saying the parallel here. There are people out here who are being like Betty White, buying alligators, and then just saying, oops, I made a mistake. This is not a pet. And they go release them in reservoirs.
There's no way. In Colorado?
Yeah, dude, I'll send you a link.
Did you just make that up? You just made that up. You're so
I just don't trust what's under what's beneath the surface, dude. I don't know.
And I can't trust you, dude. You're just lying now. Talking about, someone bought a pet shark and released it into the lakes here in Denver. Dude.
Lying is a strong word. It's not
even an exaggeration. It's not even close.
If I find a story, dude, it's going in the show notes. The people are going to know that you called me a liar and it was not held up in court.
April 2016, believe it or not, there's a report of an alligator found in southern Colorado in 2016, and it got debunked.
Oh. Well, I'll find another one.
Dude,
stop Googling while we're in live time, man.
No, dude, I'm fact checking you.
I'm just saying it could happen. Anyways.
Hey, speaking of living,
yes,
we're going to talk about past lives.
Yes, let's talk about past lives.
Living.
Past lives, man, and past wives. Here we go. Yes, Eric, let's talk about past lives. Let's jump into it. So
Josh had to re-record that part right there because he had a cough attack.
No, I had. Okay, calm down there. I took some Robitussin. Here's the thing. If you have listened to this podcast before, you know how chaotic it is, and that we always use the Jimmy V 1993 ESPY Speech rubric, which is, did this movie hold us in thought for a long time? Did this movie make us cry, whether tears of joy or sadness? And did this movie make us laugh? And if so, that is a full movie. We discuss different parts of the movie, and we interweave their story with our own stories as we discuss it. We go on a lot of tangents. Here we go. Paramount Plus, and we ruin all the movies. Paramount Plus, Showtime, Hulu, Amazon. It's streaming on a lot of places. This is a Best Picture nomination, so I think that's another reason why they're putting it everywhere. The description on Paramount Plus reads, childhood sweethearts, after decades apart, reunite for one faithful week. That is it. Pretty short, brief.
Wow.
It got a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes by the critics, 84% audience score, and on Letterboxd, it got a 4.2 average, dude. A lot of 5 stars, some 4 stars, and a lot of 3 stars. So I'm excited. It's written and directed by Celine Song. It's her directorial debut, which is kind of mind-blowing. And it stars Greta Lee, Teo Yu, and John Magaro for the most part. It's like very slim cast, you know. Eric, what are you thinking? Did I miss anything?
First of all, this is a great movie, but I will say, speaking of John Magaro, I've never seen him in anything other than The Big Short. And so in The Big Short, he was like, played that character who was like, he and his homie were starting their own little baby hedge fund out of a garage, and he seemed like this young kid. And so that's how I pictured him in this movie, it was tough for me to get over that, which is weird. He's only been in one film that I've seen, and I just was hooked on that. But anyways, no, this was a great movie. I was thinking about our rubric, and I haven't watched this. I think I watched it a few weeks ago. I didn't rewatch. Did you laugh? Did you have a lot of laughter in this movie? I'm trying to remember moments, because I know for sure I was driven to tears, and it did hold me in thought.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Man, did I laugh? I feel like no, but maybe. I'm trying to think.
I had a good chuckle now that I'm remembering. Like in the beginning when they were kids, and she said that she wants to date or to marry. Oh shoot, what's his name? The character's name. Oh, Hae-sung? Is that his name? Yeah, Hae-sung. When Nora is saying she wants to marry or date Hae-sung when she's a kid, and the mom's like, why? She says, because he's manly. And I just thought that was cute. So I had a little chuckle there. When they were just kids, right? They were like in elementary school.
Yeah.
It's like, because he's manly. So that was cute. Maybe a little chuckle there. But anyways, no, it was a fantastic movie. How did you feel the first time you watched? You saw it in theaters, yeah?
I did. Oh, dude, it was great. There was a part where the the lights came on because it paused, and that was kind of hilarious. So I was thinking about laughing. It was a full watch in that sense, that literally the whole cinema lights turned on, everything paused, and then we kind of bonded with the other people watching this movie and just kind of like, awesome. Hey, what's going on? So that was fun. Yeah, dude, John McGarr, I didn't know either. I knew I recognized him, but I had no idea what from. And then, he plays Charlie Geller from the Brownfield Fund in Big Short. And
yes,
it didn't. At first I was like, I couldn't connect it, and then rewatched Big Short, and I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely him. Not that I thought they were lying on IMDb, but yeah. He's also in First Cow, which I haven't seen, but I keep seeing it pop up in different places, that it's a really good movie. Have you heard about First Cow?
First Cow, no. I'm looking it up right now. First Cow, no.
Yeah, it's like some indie film that was, let's see, what movie? I'm trying to remember how I discovered it. There's someone in it. Nope, no idea. Anyways, I don't know how I saw it, but I saw it pop up on. Oh, I think it's because it's A24. That's why. I saw it pop up in an email by A24, and I was like, I'd never heard of this. I never saw it come to theaters. Anyways, apparently, John McGarro's in it.
I'm looking at Greta Lee too.
Dude, I don't think I've seen any of these people in movies.
No, same here.
And considering, obviously it's her first movie, so we haven't seen much from Celine Song, but she's doing a movie in this year, maybe releases next year, with Pedro Pascal. Well, rumors are it's Pedro Pascal, Dakota Johnson, and Chris Evans. And so after watching Cha Cha Real Smooth and Our Friend, I have high hopes for this one, because Pedro Pascal is, Pedro Pascal, and I love that guy. And Chris Evans, I was really impressed by his performance in Knives Out. So having the three of them work with Celine Song, stoked. So anyways, I'm excited for what she's going to bring to the screen next year. But yeah, I think there was a few chuckles, dude. They're very small. Like at the beginning when they're like, hey, who's this person? Like, who do you think these people are? And because they were in a New York bar, and it kind of doesn't have any context. And it's just like bystanders just watching them have this intimate conversation. And Haisang and Nora are the childhood sweethearts, right? And they're the ones like more in conversation. And then the husband, John McGarr. What's John McGarr's character name in this movie?
Arthur. And then Arthur's just sitting there, dude, just kind of awkwardly there. So that was kind of like funny at first in the beginning, and then as you watch the whole movie, and then when you got to watch it all play out, it was kind of heartbreaking. Yeah, it was one of those moments. We talked about this. Oh, I forget which episode, but there's sometimes in movies where you just have that secondhand embarrassment or anxiety on behalf of the character, and that's how I felt in that scene. Knowing the context of what the movie was about, but then as it plays itself out, it's actually, like you said, it's more heartbreaking than anything. But knowing what the movie's about and watching that first clip of that couple kind of questioning what they were doing, I felt like social anxiety from that. Just like the idea of them just reconnecting. Oh man, that was. But then as it plays out, it makes more sense. I don't know if it makes more sense, but it is definitely sad. You have a different approach to it.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool. I really appreciated like how they set it all up, like opening with that, but then it was them as children and the heartbreak of her leaving Korea, and you can just see the young Haisung, like the actor who played him, did such a good job of portraying that, like, I'm a kid and I'm just absolutely crushed and heartbroken, as much as a elementary school kid can be crushed and heartbroken. And then the movie's broken up. I did like how it's broken up in those like 12 years apart kind of thing. And because it's like, showing them reconnecting and then building a relationship. And I would say falling in love in a lot of ways, and then disappearing for another 12 years, right? And then they get married, Nora marries Arthur, and they live in New York and all that, right? And they reconnect again. So it spans I guess like 30 something years, 36 years. My first question the first thing that held me in thought was that idea of like, do you think that, what are your thoughts about falling in love through a screen? Like never physically being, because I think some of the things that I heard about this was it was hard to believe that they were so close, or that they got so intimate so quickly through Skype. And it made me think a lot about her in a weird way. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Oh yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
You know, he falls in love with AI. So I'm like, they never really meet. And so it's similarly, it feels like that somewhat concept. Like, I know they see her different from her, because Joaquin Phoenix doesn't actually see Scarlett Johansson's character. But in this, it's a screen of somebody, but they're not physically there. What do you think about that? And both in your life, but also like in the movie?
I had that same question of like, wow, they were really hung up for just being like, little elementary school kids. And she has that line, it's in the trailer, everybody's heard it, where she says, oh, he was just this kid in my head for so long. I'm like, I get that, but then seeing how the relationship did play out, I feel like what happens, and I'm going to say, I don't know if you've ever seen Love is Blind, but it's like all over the internet right now. It's a really popular reality show where you're supposed to fall in love without seeing the other person. With that, which it's a hilarious show. And this, I feel like what happens in both situations is you get bits and pieces of this person. So you create everything else about them to fill in the gaps that you don't know and create this ideal person that you can fall in love with. So I think, in Love is Blind, they might emotionally have an attachment verbally for like their 10 days that they know each other. And that's why it never ends up working out, because they physically put them together in their brain. There's all these gaps because you don't really know this person. So when they get engaged, it's like, you're not what I built you to be. So I feel like that's the same thing that would happen with Skype like that, is you have these small moments and connections, and which is great. I really do think that you can connect with somebody and love somebody and care for somebody virtually. But to fall in a deep love and have a truly, I think it's tough. People will do it. I'm sure people listening may have been in long distance relationships and make it work. My thought is like, that seems really tough, because you're not going to get enough of them to where you get the authentic them. You're going to get enough of them and then create the rest in your own mind. I don't know. That might be thinking too much into it, but because I've never been in anything long distance like that, because that was, how long were they Skyping?
They kind of just montaged it, I felt like, but it seemed like a good
months,
while.
years, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a substantial period of time. And so again, it's like, yes, you can communicate, but I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying it seems difficult, right? Because you'd have to fill in the gaps. I'm talking about romantic specific, strictly, right? Strictly romantic relationship. Like you'd have to fill in those gaps in your mind. And then when it comes to meeting them in person or seeing them in person, they're not what you create. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I like how you phrase that, because I felt like that's why the movie worked for me, because I filled in. Like the parts where they felt like there was holes, I was like, I didn't matter, because I was like, I think it's possible. Like I was filling in these piecing together little thoughts and my own interpretations of their interactions. Like how that awkward, there's a couple calls, or one of the calls where she wouldn't, or neither of them wanted to hang up. He's like, I got to go to class. She's like, I got to eat.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, you haven't eaten yet? It's midnight. You need to eat. And they're just literally just kind of pausing and staring. And they're like, we both got to go, but I'm not going to hang up. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm connecting those feelings of like, I'm infatuated. I'm connected to this person. And that whole like, I don't know if you've ever been like that, where you're like, I don't want to hang up with this person. You hang up first.
Oh, yeah.
But then neither of them wants to do it. I felt like that filled in all those little bits and pieces for me. Like not just that scene individually, but those like they did a few of those, right? Where he's getting up early, or he's like, yeah, I got class, but I'm going to call you while I'm on the bus, or I'm going to take you on my trips. They're on the tram, and he's showing her Soul. And so I don't know. I felt like it's possible in that regard too, of just really connecting with a person on a relational level and just through words. And I don't know. I felt like it was possible and believable. And I feel like I've seen some friends in real life do that, long distance date and know each other for a very, very brief time in real life, and then move and not see each other for like a year. And now they're together.
So like, yeah. And I guess it depends on the time frame, right? And it varies for different people, because the way I felt like it was years that they were apart. But
yeah,
so that's where, to me, I'm like, that is so difficult to maintain.
Right.
But yeah, like again, people can make it work. And I think what was hard for me was like their last interaction was they were literal children. Then you skip to this long
Yeah.
distance. So it's like, but yeah, in the moment, you're right. You fill in as you're watching, you're filling in these own blanks because having this conversation with you now, it's easy for me to question these things. But when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, they're in love.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I didn't think
Right.
this as I'm watching because it's like, oh, duh, they're so close. They love each other, childhood sweethearts. It's only in retrospect that I'm like questioning this.
Yeah. Right. And I think too, the reason why it made me, obviously, like I said, I have some friends who have done this and it worked out. And then also though, once they introduced Inyan and that concept, you kind of had to backtrack. So watching it a second time after understanding that, because they don't introduce Inyan till way later, right? Because there's a part when they first connect as they only know each other as 12-year-olds, and then they connect in their 20s. And I think I want to say it's their first call. He goes, I want to say this, but it just seems weird and I don't want to say it. And she's like, just say it. And he's like, I missed you. And then she pauses for a long time, goes, me too. And that part of it's like super weird. It's like, what do you mean you missed each other? Like, as a childhood friend, but it seems so much more. So watching it the first time, I was like, I think the second watch connected the Inyan to that moment where I was like, oh, because then Nora wants to take a break from talking, and because she felt like it was like distracting, I guess, because she was looking up flights to Korea instead of focusing on her life. And so, and then in that break, she meets Arthur at a writing retreat, and they fall in love, and they end up getting married. And then flash forward 12 years, and they're there. And anyways, when she falls in love with Arthur, that's when they introduce that concept, Inyan, right? And I'm gonna pull up the definition so I don't butcher what that means. So in Inya, this is from Nora says this in the movie. This is the Nora's character's description of it. That there's a word in Korean called Inyan, and it means providence or fate. It's it's specifically about relationships between people. I think it comes from Buddhism and reincarnation. It's an Inyan if two strangers even walk by each other on the street and their clothes accidentally brush. It means there must be something between them in their past lives. End quote. And so then I was like, oh, if that concept is true, and if they're living in that and they do have all of these past lives, maybe they did not understand why they missed each other, but they knew each other, right? They have thousands of years of past lives together, and that's why they miss each other. And that kind of completed that, I guess. It made more sense and it felt more real. Even though I loved it the first time, I was bought in the first watch. But after watching it the second time, I was like, okay, this goes even harder. Like I'm all in. Like there's no doubt for me in this.
It's funny too, because I feel like there's a similar theme in so many of these movies we've discussed in so many of our episodes of like the what ifs, that this path, that path, these decisions. And I was literally, it's so funny talking to a friend recently about this girl that he met at a conference out of state. They're both out of state. They exchange information, friends at the conference, no big deal. A couple years go by, they keep in a little bit of contact. Not a big deal. He's hiking in Colorado. He's doing a 3-day backpacking trip on this like 35-mile loop. Happens to cross paths with her. And it's like, no way, what the heck? So it's just like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you since the conference. Like, this is so wild. Again, they live in different states. A year goes by. He's in town in Albuquerque visiting some family. She's in town visiting a college friend. They run into each other at a restaurant. I mean, just like this wild thing. Anyways, they're dating now.
What?
And they now both live in Texas. But like, it's so wild to me that like, people talk about fate or soulmate or whatever, right? Like, not speaking to their relationship specifically, but like when things are right or the timing is right or wrong, things can work out. And like what decisions led them to these points. Like that is so wild to me that is, the story that he was explaining to me that happened. Like, what are the chances, right? But I feel like we've discussed this theme a few times, and it's always so interesting, like, because I did read something, and again, spoiler, you maybe already did a spoiler alert, but like at the end of this, Nora and Arthur, say bye to Hae-sung, and she's extremely emotional. She goes back with Arthur to their place, and a lot of people were like, oh, she's just not over him. And I don't know, how did you feel about the ending? Because I read so many different interpretations of that, like some pretty basic interpretations of she's just not over a previous boyfriend, and some really in-depth interpretations of it. And like, how did you feel about the ending when she was really emotional with Arthur, because a lot of people said it's great to discuss concepts in movies, but putting yourself in Arthur's shoes, how do you feel about your spouse being so emotional, saying bye to an ex? Like, that's a basic question, but like, how did you interpret that? Like that ending?
Yeah.
Because I didn't expect that. Honestly, I didn't know how it ended. And then when she was distraught when she said bye, my perspective, my basic initial perspective was like she closed the chapter. I don't think she longs for him or wanted more in the moment. It was more of like, huh, what could have been? How wild, right? They talked about it at the bar.
Yeah.
But so I didn't see it as like her longing for him, like, oh, I should have married somebody else. But I don't know. What was your thought on that?
Yeah. Yeah, that ending was crushing. Like, I felt like that walk where she finally breaks down and just bawling.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I have to talk from what I think about this. I have to bring up the conversation where they're in, I think they're in bed, Arthur and Nora, or they're in their place for sure. I know that.
Yeah.
And they're talking exactly about that. What if, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if you met a different, like, we're only together because we happen to be at the same art residency and we happen to both be single. So we both slept with each other. And he says, what if you met someone else who read all the same books and was into the same things? And what if, and he keeps saying, what if, speak to that theme. Like you're saying, we've ventured on this everything everywhere all at once, if you will, just multiverse spiral existential dread journey. And her response was, but no, I didn't. Like, this is my life. Like, this is where I end up. Like, this is not any of that. Because he even makes a comment about, like, what do your parents think about this? This part kind of made me laugh too, where she's like, what, that my parents' American dream was to immigrate to Canada and for me to marry you? Like, you're saying that? And it's like, he's like, no, well, like, yeah, like, what is the dream? But she's taking everything as like a matter of fact. Like, what if is not, it seemed like to me she wasn't trying to engage with that, but she was contemplating those things, but her mind was saying, but this is my life. Like, it's not what if, I'm here. So it doesn't matter about what if I met someone else, or what if he did come here for me and visit me. And because she's like, this is where I ended up. And I really like that too. I'm going to pivot just a little bit or go on a side street here, but because I think that's kind of how I feel like I'd like to approach my life, where it's like, well, this is where I ended up. Like, it's not like there are things that are better. Like, there's part of me that, like, I've talked about, I don't know if I actually talked to on this podcast or I mentioned to you, like, I've always wanted to, like, there's a part of me that has an itch to live in New York. I want to go to New York. And another reason why I love this movie is there's a setting in New York. Movies that are set in New York, I'm biased.
Love it.
But and there's an itch there, and I'm like, I need to go to New York. I need to go to New York. And I'm not there right now. I'm in Colorado. And there's a part of me that's like, well, I can either choose to be like, well, what if I would have done this? Or what if I would have done that? And instead I'm saying, well, I'm in Colorado. This is where I'm at. So I'm going to try to make this the best I can, where I'm like, this is the best place to be for anyone and everybody. And then when people are like, well, what part of town? Because I lived, I first was in Castle Rock, and then I was in North Denver, and then I was like in a different part that was a really cool, walkable to like Trader Joe's and restaurants and a movie theater. Dude, I used to walk to a movie theater, and it was the best during that time. Now I live in the suburbs down south and hood baby. But I lived in the suburbs, and people are like, Josh, that's not the suburbs aren't cool. But I'm trying to embrace that. I'm like, no, this is where I'm at. This is where my life's at, and it is the coolest. I'm 5 minutes from Trader Joe's. I'm 10 minutes from a movie theater now, and it's quiet, and I get to run in my neighborhood. And I don't know, there's this like shift in my mind where I'm like, this is just what my life is right now, and I'm going to try to love it in the same way that I think that stuck with me that second time I watched it. And I think even New Mexican Drew pointed out with me, he's like, Josh, and he mentioned the whole, like, I live here now, and I'm going to make this is the cool thing. Like, this is where the party's at. It's in the suburbs. But dude, if I was downtown, I'd be like, dude, downtown, that's where the party is. If I was in North Denver, that's where the party's at, right? In the same way, I think if I ever make it to New York, I'd say the same thing. I'm like, so anyways, all that to say, connecting it back to Nora, going back to Nora, I think that conversation was really important to understand the ending for me, because then she has that conversation, the three of them, they go to dinner, and the way they edited it too and shot it, where they would sometimes include the three, but then they would cut him out. And I, as a viewer, like, I want to see what he's feeling and thinking, but then they only do close-ups of them two having that intimate, private conversation. And it almost like it makes me forget, like, oh yeah, like
he's there, Arthur's there.
Yeah. And then after that conversation, they go back home, and that like he gets his Uber and they walk, you know, a few blocks to just chat. That conversation too, with where she said, "This is my life, this is where I'm at," and I think she was embracing that for so long. And then at the end, when Hai Sung goes, he kind of lets her, I feel like he lets her go, like, because he says, "I needed," you know, they both wanted to see each other one last time. Can't remember who verbally stated that at the carousel, but when he's about to get in the Uber, he says something about past lives, like the whole, we lived a lot of lives, like, and instead of saying all of our past lives led to us being together in this life, I think he makes a reference to they're in the middle of it, like they're Inyan, like they are Inyan, all happening. Of them, and they're not together. But then he starts talking about, what if we're something in the future, in another life? And to me, I was like, is that him letting go? Is that him saying, actually, this life, I'm going to let go of that, and I'm going to stop thinking about past lives. I'm going to start thinking about my current life, but I'm just going to have hope that in the next life or in the next lives, we are something. And I think that when she starts walking back, I think that's when she starts breaking, because then I think that's when it hits her that he's letting go and that she is now exploring what if, and is the next life enough for her. And that's my, like, again, that's my projection. I don't know if that's really what she's feeling, but I don't know. How did you engage with that? Or what I said, can you see any of that? Or is it like,
oh, different? Absolutely. 100%. It's the one thing I was thinking about Arthur is like I had so much sympathy for him when she walked in and he's just playing video games, and he's just like this regular ass dude, and that shot just broke me down for him. Like, he has no idea, because there are a couple different characters they could have put in this position, right? Like an overbearing husband who was just like, absolutely never, because there's that line where he's like, I'm not gonna say you can't see him or something. But he's also not, on the flip side, just like, you know, close out your chapter, do what you must, like, just was super open. He was real. It felt like, hey, yeah, that's weird, but like, I'm not gonna say no. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. He was really like normal, right? He wasn't on the spectrum of like overbearing. He wasn't on the other side of just like embracing the Inyan, I would say. So that shot of him just like Xbox or whatever he was playing made me feel so much sympathy, because how do you navigate that? Because he's not in her head understanding where she's feeling. But yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. Yeah, my interpretation was, it felt like she broke down because, like, okay, the chapter is closed. Because I thought what you said, that's where my mind went, was like, I thought they both did, but how you said he closed that chapter, that's how that felt, right? Like, I don't think the time they were together, they were exploring, ooh, let's try this out. Or at least I don't think she was. I think it was like closing that chapter, which of course is going to invoke emotions. But, you know, they didn't show it, but I'm just curious how Arthur reacts to that, right? Like, obviously he comforted her and took her in, but what's that going to do to his mental state, right? Like, yeah. So anyways, there was a lot, but yeah, I think that's a good observation you have. I like that theme in movies, because for me, and like what you said it does for you, it does something similar to me. Is, yes, you could have made decisions to even small things. Like, oh, I could have shifted this to be in this position with work or my career, or like this creative venture that I have. It doesn't have to be large, like where you live. Great, sure. But it could also be those smaller things.
Yes.
Like, I could just, those are a little better to reflect on, though, because those are a little more tangible to act on. Like, okay, well, you actually could make decisions to change that. Or something larger, like you said, where you live, embrace where you're at. So when movies have this theme, that's where it drives my mind, is not just embracing, but enjoying and elevating where you're at. And some people might interpret them differently and feel differently, or even react differently, to where they start to spiral themselves, right? I can totally fathom people watching this, or, you know, Everything Everywhere All at Once, or any movie that has that kind of similar theme of like, oh, what if, right? I'm, I didn't spiral in that way, and it doesn't sound like you did either necessarily, but you had those thoughts of like, hey, I'm going to embrace where I'm at now, which I think is cool. But I also love the idea that people interpret movies differently or react to them differently, right? If you spiral, then I don't mean that negatively. That's what I mean. I'm not saying that that's a negative thing. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I love movies that do that, man, that will make you think into one way or another or spiral. Like if that's a fantastic movie that can grab you. Because personally for me, you can share if you did. I didn't have any childhood sweetheart like that, right? Like Kelly and I met in high school and we started dating senior year. That didn't end up working out. So we got together for real sophomore year of college. So like that, people joke we're high school sweethearts. I was not her type in high school, man. You know what I mean? But like, so I don't think I have this perspective of elementary school lovers, and some people might. Even if you don't, I love that the movie still pulls you into that line of thinking regardless, right? So it's not strictly a love story or of like just past love. It can open up your mind to anything.
Yeah.
Did you have that?
No, not really. In elementary school, I wasn't really concerned. That was the other thing that I was thinking about. I was like, do people, when the mom's like, do you want to go on a date with him? And she's like, yep, I do. And it was interesting because I was like, is that an outlier or am I the outlier? Like
that's an outlier. I think, I'm just saying, I think that's an outlier, dude. I had no idea what that meant for many years.
Like people had crushes, I think. I felt like there was times where I felt like I had to force a crush. Like I would like lie about one just because everyone else said they had crushes, and then I felt uncomfortable, but then I didn't want to be left out, and so I was like, so I would say it was someone even though it wasn't true. Like, so yeah. Anyways, that part of it was a little comical, and also like, made me think like, wait, am I out of place here? But because I wanted to ask about that, like, okay, if you embrace this might be a little personal, but if you embrace the concept of Inyan, so if you and Kelly, because they say something like, if someone ends up together, it's 8,000 past lives that have left, at least, right? And for y'all to meet, because I remember, it could be my words, maybe yours, but something around you being an asshat in high school, and that's why it didn't work out. But I was wondering if that concept of Inyan that like made them feel like, I missed you, but I don't know why. Like, and I both feel it. And it's, if they've known each other for 7,000 lives, maybe that's where that feeling of being missed. Has that ever, like, does those things happen with Kelly where you're like, we might have known each other in past lives, or we might have been together in past lives, whether it be funny, serious, drama, whether you like each other, but like how, like, does it feel like has it ever felt like it's so natural? Like, and again, I know, like you said, like it didn't work out in high school, but it worked out later. And maybe in like 1,000 future lives, it works out sooner. Because that's the other thing I was thinking about, right? It was like, oh, it didn't work out, but then it does for people, right? And then for me, I went to that place of like, it didn't work out in this life with some people. And I started thinking like, oh, is that helpful for me to let go in this lifetime, of like, let go of any sort of like what ifs, to be like, oh, maybe me and so-and-so ended up together in like, 1,000 future lifetimes or whatever. So I'm just curious if you've ever had any of those moments that you're willing to share of like, we have to have known each other in past lives. Like, this is you guys are too in sync, or it's too familiar, I guess. Not too familiar in a bad way, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so crazy because it definitely, it's amazing that it didn't work out when we tried the first time, because I was just such a loser. And like, we continued on about our lives and then reconnected a year and a half later at Young Life. It was like a leaders thing. And then later that night I was with Isaiah at my house, and I was like, man, I just gotta like, I feel like calling her, like, let me just try again, and a million reasons why that could have happened, but it worked out that time. And people might hate that I say this, people might question it, disagree, and like, feel free to. I know so many relationships are different, but my feeling is that it just fit like a glove when it did. Like when we connected, we just connected, and it felt that familiarity. Yeah, what you're saying is not negative, it's positive. It's like, oh, this just works.
Yeah.
And it was so many scenarios early on into like us actually dating where it just worked. And all of the hints were there. And like, I've talked about this on this episode before, not this episode, this podcast before. And again, I've had in-person conversations where people disagree, but like, my feeling is that most people who go on dates can have a good time. You don't have to be soulmates. You don't have to really connect. Like, two individuals can have a really good time dating, but it's other situations that you place yourself in. And everybody's like, oh, the real trick is traveling together for the first time. I'm like, dude, anybody that goes on vacation, for the most part, they're having fun. Like, that's not what I mean. So like, I think there's other small situations that you place yourself in, whether it's something traumatic or something positive or something, or really dull day-to-day moments, that those special feelings really come out. And that's what happened with us early on, man. There was just like key moments or key conversations or interactions that we had where I was like, this just works. Like, this is just easy.
Yeah.
And when I say easy, I don't mean there's not disagreements.
Yeah.
But like, it just should work, man. I think sometimes, yeah, early on when we really dated, not in high school, but in college, when we really dated, it just worked. We just feel like a glove. Our personalities, the way we approached life and our friends and interacted with each other's friends and families, and just all of it meshed well. So I hadn't seen this movie. I never heard this concept before, but yeah, if we want to relate the two, it's like, yeah, it feels like, well, I've known you forever in that familiar way of like, she just gets me.
Yeah. In
ways that some other people might, and gets me in ways that nobody else does too, which I think that's the key for me. Is there yeah, man, it's so funny, like, thinking about that in this sense of like how many different moments led us to each other at the time where it worked, and that familiarity of like, it just flowed,
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
think that's why I fell in love with this movie and this concept, is just that idea of falling in step with someone. Like life companionship, where it's like, oh, it makes sense. And now you're just in stride, moving through life. And that idea seems really cool. It's almost too magical. And I think as I don't know, just maybe like I really love rom-coms, maybe, being a hopeless romantic, or like trying to, because I am a little, what's the right word, resistant to this idea of online dating. Not because I don't think it's a good thing. I'm like, the community and society evolves. Like, I think that's how people date nowadays. And it's like, that's just what people do. And there's a part of me that this idea of like, you're just going to meet, and then it's going to make sense, and it's going to happen serendipitously. Even though I feel like there's a strong argument of like, well, if you online date and do it through an app, you filter through so many things, and you don't have to go on, like you're saying, worldviews or how you approach life. It worked out with you and Kelly, like how you're saying the second time, where it felt more in sync. But going through these first dates where you don't really know anybody, and then you find out worldviews are different, or like you're saying, people say traveling together is different, or how you do holidays together with each other's in-laws or other families, like those things take time. And I feel like dating apps kind of expedite that. You can talk about those things or get through those things quicker, or like look at people's bios and see what they post, photos and references and all that stuff, and you can kind of get through some of those things that faster, right? But there's a part of me that's like the whole, just you meet someone and it just clicks, right?
And especially like you said, you read that bio, there's nuance to everyone. And every belief and every action you take and interaction you have. And so like when you read it in a bio, it's like, oh, I'm checking them off immediately because of this, right? Like, and we're talking like everything, every kind of thing that's listed that labels you on social media, and you get written off immediately because of that. And again, like you said, people evolve, society does, how people interact, and I'm sure there's successful relationships from it. But like, you meet someone and you really fall in love with them, and it just works. And it's like, I'm not sure I like the way you do that. All good. We work it out. I grow, you grow, we do it together. And it's like, what did Robin Williams say in Good Will Hunting? He's like, oh, it was those imperfections that I love the most. When you see on social media the imperfection, it's like, oh, I'm swiping whichever direction you swipe.
Yeah.
Because And it's like, there are parts of me that for sure Kelly would have probably seen in a dating profile, but we didn't have dating profiles, that she would have been like, oh, no way. But like, we connected in this way where she's like, that is a really probably, I'm putting words in her mouth. She'll get mad at me for saying this, but like, that's a part of Eric she's not stoked about. but she loves the rest of me, right? And so it's like, I love that from Robin Williams and Good Will Hunting, because that is so true. But you don't get that if you immediately write somebody off because you read it online. And again,
pros and cons.
Nuance to people.
There's both sides, right? There's a lot to that. And then, but once Kelly finds out you're an amateur pro retired skater, she's like, all in.
Here we go. I'm gone again.
No, but no, because one of the things that, like you were saying about traveling together, that I've heard a lot was you have to fight. And I thought that, like, go through a big fight. If you can fight together and stay together, like, that's how you know you should stay together or something like that. And I thought it was interesting because in this movie, Nora and Hae-sung were talking about at this point, it's the 36-year, like the last reconnection. And Nora was saying that she fights with Arthur all the time. Like, they argue and don't see things. And I love that analogy or metaphor she uses of, we're two plants in the same pot, and we're trying to find, our roots are trying to take place, and they're fighting for, they're fighting for where to settle. And then Hae-sung says he doesn't fight with his girlfriend. Like, you don't fight? He goes, no, we don't fight. And I just thought that was interesting, because going back to your point, there's some people say you have to, like, you need to have these big fights in order to be together. But I think this concept of Inyan, if you've lived 9,000, 10,000 lives, I'm like, maybe you fight a little bit less because you're more familiar, you're more in sync, and you just know each other without knowing each other so well. So then anyways, I was like thinking about that very often, because you see couples sometimes, I think, and people who are together where you're like, they just mesh and it makes sense. Yeah. And I'm sure they disagree, and I'm sure they do have like fights, but it's not, it just seems different, I guess, from the outside looking in. It doesn't seem like, it just is like, y'all were truly made for each other. And so
yeah, I think this thing when I've talked to people about it is like, life is hard, and it always will be, and shit will always happen. The relationship shouldn't be with each other. And so like the extracurricular stuff, having a mortgage or fixing this up or the job or this or in-laws or family, all of that will cause tension, and you have to deal with it together, which causes disagreements and arguments. But my thought is that I don't think that should stem from each other, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so yeah, when you're in sync and you really are made for each other and love each other, that's the easy part. And then life happens, and then you disagree and you work it out together. But it's also working it out together, and like how she says they're both growing. I think a lot of times what happens too, if people start dating young, or even forget even young, forget I even said that, at any point.
Yeah.
Years go by and it's like, wait, you're not who I dated. No, you're not. You're different.
Yeah.
You both are. And once you agree with that and understand that, like she did, it's like, we are both growing. And if it's a healthy relationship, which it seems like theirs is, then you will both continue to grow instead of one taking root in the other.
Right.
You figure it out together, right? But yeah, like we've been together almost 12 years in total, just marriage and dating.
Yeah.
Dude, we're not the same people we were.
Right.
Absolutely not. But we grew together, understanding that we will change and adapt together. And so
right.
Life throws things at you, and you disagree and you argue and you figure it out. But yeah, like you said, I think it is important to be able to work things like that out. And the more in sync you are, and yeah, I don't know. I truly believe when it happens, it'll happen. Like you said you're a hopeless romantic, but I agree, man. I think it will happen in the right timing, and it'll just feel right. I think it's
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, and I think for myself, it's just thinking about, I don't know if I'm the same person in 5 years, I think I'd be kind of bummed. So anyways.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Because when people talk about like, oh, they changed, they started dating this person and they changed, or they moved here and they changed, or they took any context, right? And they're changed. And I'm like, and I get it. It's me. I think when I say that when I get bummed about others changing, it feels, as my personal reflection is like, I'm being selfish. Like I want someone to not change because I want them to stay the same because of who they were to me or our friendship. And now it's different. But then I forget that like, I need to look at myself and be like, wait, maybe it's I have changed. And that's for me a good thing. I look at that of like, I want to be a different person and have the ways I think, the different beliefs. Like generally I like the big picture beliefs. I'm like, I get it can stay the same throughout your lifetime. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be afraid of like changing changing something or evolving with myself, like becoming into who I'm supposed to be or not supposed to be, whatever you want to see, how you want to see about fate and all of that, right? But anyways, and this movie had a lot of things for me that held me in thought. We chuckled a couple times. Were there tears for you?
I think towards the end I was driven close to tears. I don't think I fully cried, but I was feeling emotional with Nora. Just like the whole. There was one other scene with Arthur and Nora. But yeah, I was driven to emotion for sure. Yeah. And even though I didn't laugh too much, I think it was a full movie for me because it held me in such thought, and I felt a lot of emotion. So again, even when I'm saying I didn't cry, I was driven to emotion in so many emotions in so many different scenes.
Right.
Like heartwarming scenes of them as kids, and then even the relationship. I know obviously the relationship didn't work out, but between Haesung and Nora, like the conversations they had, and Nora and Arthur, like, as I watch a movie selfishly, like making it about me, I relate it and I have these feelings. So yeah, I felt so many different emotions throughout this. To me, it was a full movie.
Yeah, and I think that this is the kind of movie too that in some times in your life it won't be a full movie, but then something's gonna happen in your life where you'll connect more. So I think that like, and not that all full movies are this way or are this way, but I do think that there's some movies they're gonna make me emotional no matter what. Every single time I watch it's gonna be emotional. But this one specifically, I think, is very like, what is the context of my life? Where am I at in my life, and how is it gonna make me feel? But it was definitely a full watch for me. The first time I watched it, all I heard about is how this movie rips someone's soul and opens the floodgates. And so I went into it thinking it was gonna hit me right away or throughout, and I was getting close, and it was, don't get me wrong, it was emotional, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling stuff, but it wasn't until, dude, that very last scene where she started walking back and breaking down, and then it hit me, dude, and I was like, I'm a mess. I'm in the theater by myself, just a crying mess, dude. And so and then this, like I said, I rewatched it in the last couple of weeks, for this episode, and it made me I got emotional quicker and sooner because I was connecting those dots, like I had mentioned earlier, and I knew what was coming, and I was like, oh man, my heart. And so full watch for me, for sure. It was, and I really enjoyed this movie. Full watch. But
heck yeah,
dude. Okay,
wait, as we close it out, we gotta plug our newsletter one more time.
Absolutely, dude. Okay, so this newsletter, to go in a little depth, I know we talked about it a little bit early in the show, but if you made it this far, hang in there with us a little bit longer. But if you subscribe to this newsletter, it's for free. It'll be in the bio. It's sweet and condensed. And also, this is in this newsletter whenever we do drop new episodes, whether from Living a Stream. The Medium Project is still a thing, and it's more project-based. We haven't released anything new yet, but when we do, it'll be announced now Fridays through this newsletter. So it won't be emailed through the Substack every as soon as we drop it. Just a heads up. But that being said, sweet and condensed.
What's happening,
dude? I almost made it all without a big coughing fit.
Start the whole thing over.
No.
Just kidding.
Sweet and condensed, dude. It's a weekly newsletter. It helps people. We're hoping we got the gang together, dude. The whole Three Milks Media fam. And we're all bringing our hearts and our minds together to contribute to this newsletter where it's helping people. Is this movie worth watching on the big screen, or should I wait till it's on streaming, and what to expect in it, right? Are we going to laugh? Are we going to think? Are we going to cry? All of those things and those gauges that you want to know what you're getting into and how you're spending your dollars. Because I'll be honest, movies aren't cheap. How much are movies in Albuquerque right now? Like if you went to a movie at night with you and Kelly, how much are you spending on tickets, not on snacks?
Like $12.50
a ticket.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's nice, but it's still a lot of dollars.
How much is it there?
If you watch a movie at night, like $15 to $18, and IMAX was
$8.
Dude, IMAX was $21.50.
Dude, that's brutal. You know what though? Flix Brew actually. You subscribe to this newsletter because we talk about a lot of crap. But one of the things that we're going to talk about is like which theater is the best, which style of theater, right? You know how there's movie theaters in malls, trash. So anyways, we'll get into that. But like Flicks Brewhouse here in Albuquerque, you can eat beer, the whole bit. Like Kelly and I, we talk about disagreements, man. It's like, what's the movie? Are we going to Flicks Century? Anyways, we'll discuss it in the newsletter eventually. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Flicks Brewhouse prices are legit. I think it's a little over $11.
Okay.
But you're spending money on the food regardless when you're there. So I think that's how it evens itself out. But it's a little cheaper than Century, which is my favorite.
Century's a good one. I'm a little biased, AMC, because I'm an AMC Stubs person. But just a heads up, cheat code for anyone who's listening in Albuquerque, the AMC, it's a drive down in the South Valley. You can watch a IMAX movie, I believe, at night for like $12. And then during the day or matinee or maybe even evening regular tickets, they're like $8, dude. So anyways, that's the spot. You might be spending some money.
What?
But yeah, the newsletter has a scorecard. That's where we talk about like what to expect. But it also has temp these takes, and that's what Eric is mentioning. There's a section where we talk about all of our, I don't know if they're hot or cold, man, but we talk about that stuff, like what movies, any opinions that are centered around cinema, any about movie theaters, movie watching, theater experiences. Anyways, and this most recent one, we'll give you a little glimpse into it. We're talking about etiquette, right? Movie theater etiquette. This is part one. It's going to be an ongoing series in these weekly newsletters. Eric, we talked about arrival this time. When you arrive, what's the etiquette of arriving to your showtime? Eric, I read yours, and then I obviously had mine in there, and we might be a little bit at odds. And this, I will.
For sure.
I will preface this though with, I've evolved over time. Okay, this is just where I'm at right now. Okay, because I think you asked me 10 years ago, I might be more on Eric's opinion. But Eric, what do you want to share a little bit of your opinion about what movie theater etiquette is about arriving?
Arriving to the theater. You must be parking your car at least 3 minutes before the movie start time. If your showtime is at 6:15 p.m., 6:12 in the parking lot. I'm going to read verbatim right now because this is worth reading. This only applies if you aren't getting snacks. If you include trailers as a buffer time to park and get snacks, then the cinema might not be for you. Just head home. The theater experience is wasted. Go on over to your local Redbox at that point, call it a day, and plop yourself on the couch. The theater, the trailers are everything. And it depends on the movie you're seeing, right? Like if you're going with your kids to go see Trolls, they're still important because you as a parent need to know what's coming up for your child. Okay, so don't neglect your kids. If you're going to see Dune, I promise you there were good trailers last night. Were there, Josh?
There were.
So Josh's, you can read your bit, but we're definitely at odds because I don't like it.
Okay, let me say this. Okay, so I was like, I usually get, if the movie's at 7:30, I get there between 7:15 and 7:45. There's a little
ridiculous.
Buffer. Okay, don't get me wrong. It is a concern. Trailers and previews are a concern of mine. It's just not the biggest one where I'm like, okay, if this movie starts at 7:30 and if it's a regular showing, you get 15 to 18 minutes of previews. It generally around the 18-minute mark. And if you're going to an AMC, that's when Nicole Kidman shows up. That's my biggest concern. Nicole Kidman comes onto the trailer screen and she says grace. She blesses the movie theater. She blesses the food, and then we get to eat. So that to me is the most important thing. It is heretical.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. You know that she has 2 new ones premiering, right?
Yes.
If you show up late, you could miss them. That's all I'm saying, dude.
No, okay, so she does have 2 new ones. There's 3 total now. They're shorter. They're 30 seconds, and they're rotating. So they're still only playing 1 per movie. But
so you could miss it.
Maybe, but dude, I have this down to a T. I've never missed one. I'm showing up when I show up, and I don't miss one. And I even know, we'll get into the restroom use later, but I know when to go to the bathroom during the trailers. But that being said, too, IMAX has longer amount of previews. So that changes when I arrive. So we had like 30 to 35 minutes of trailers last night.
You're lying. There's no way.
I kid you not, dude. If the movie showtime was 7:15, I don't think it started till about 7:45, 7:48. It was much longer because it's IMAX. And I didn't realize that IMAX shows more previews. Just like we were talking about Ghost Story the other day, it was a special viewing. I don't know if they put any. And this is where my arrival etiquette backfired because I showed up and it was like already started because I thought there was going to be previews.
Just take yours off the newsletter. If you're listening to this, don't read the newsletter until Josh updates it. We got to remove his take first.
I'm just saying. Anyways, if this sounds interesting to you, there's sections on this where we will either agree, disagree, but we're going to share our opinions. But here's what's fun. It's tempt these takes. You get to decide as a reader or as a listener, is this a hot take or a cold take? Or is this somewhere in the middle? You can let us know, email back, you can comment, but it sounds like, according to Eric, I should just plop myself down and get a red box. Even though, do people still get red box? Is that a thing?
I was gonna say Blockbuster, Hastings, and then
shout out Blockbuster, dude.
RIP.
Anyways, and then the last section is watch list worthy, and it's just movies that we're excited to see that we want to put on people's radars. So, anyways, Sweet and Condensed, link in bio, link in the show notes below. It's subscribe for free. It's going to be a good time. Join us on the journey. Released every Friday. That being said, thank you for listening. Thank you for 5-star reviews. Thank you for your ratings. They all appreciate it. If you really hate it, give a 1-star. That's great too. 1s and 5s. That's all we want. There's no in between. Okay?
No in between. We're hot or cold here, baby.
Let us know. Go give us those ratings. Go give us your reviews. We appreciate those who have already done. We see the ratings going up. We're really thankful. Appreciate. Subscribe to the newsletter. Be informed of what's going on in cinema, in the world of movie watching. Movie theaters are back, dude. That's what Dune proved to me. Movie theaters are back. We're back on track. 1 billion tickets being sold this year. We haven't had that since 2019, according to this website that I will link in the show notes. Anyway,
Wikipedia.
It's wikipedia.org. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Keep living, keep streaming.